Hello and welcome to a City Voices interview with Michelle Dyson of Washington, D.C. She's a peer specialist, a peer advocate, and she works for a nonprofit and she volunteers and she takes care of her family. This will be her story. I'd like to welcome you, Michelle. Welcome to this little program.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
It's a segment called Real People, Real Stories. So now, Michelle, for the next 15 minutes, please share your story from the beginning up until the present.
All right. All right. I'll start with my lived experience, of course, which did not include me, but at age 9, my my mother had her very first manic episode. Um, it was triggered by the suicide of her older brother. Um, she it took her years to get compliant with her psych meds. So it was pretty much every summer she had a manic episode. And she and I were close. So, I always knew there was something going on before my dad or my brother did. Um, but it really affected me. You know, I was already being bullied at school. You know, I had probably a very low uh, sense of self. Um, as I went on, by the time I was 14, my mom had another episode, and my uncle, her oldest brother in California, came to get us. We went and stayed with him. My mother still did not take her meds, and she flipped out one night and tried to snatch me from the house. My uncle didn't allow it. She ended up coming back to DC, and I stayed in Long Beach for a year, and I loved it. Nobody was bullying me. It was so diverse that I wasn't a target. But my parents tricked me into coming back. I came back, uh, ended up getting with the wrong crowd, smoking weed, skipping school, and of course things graduated um, into some harder drugs like cocaine. Um, I met my husband. We started having children, and at that time when I met him, we were both doing drugs. He got off. I got pregnant. Decided, look, either you get off or I'm out. So I got off. I got a good job. Um, was doing well for years, and then stressed myself out. I was trying to do too much. I was a mom, I was a wife, I was a pet mom, I was taking classes online at University of Phoenix for psychology, and my job was also very demanding, not just skillfully, but also physically. And I broke down. I broke down. Um, and probably was hospitalized twice within 2 months. And I believe that was 2009. Um, so I got into a core service agency, got into group. I was very dedicated. Um, I then found a part time job at GW University as a proctor, did well there. It was temporary. Left there and got a job with Pearson as a test administrator. And by that time, I was experiencing suicide ideation 24 hours a day for about 3 years. And then my psychiatrist for years got promoted. I got a new psychiatrist that I was leery of, but he noticed that I might be coming down with target dyskinesia because of a antipsychotic medication that I had been on for years, and he thought it really should have been temporary. So he took me off those meds. I flipped out again. I think in 3 months, I had been hospitalized 5 times, assaulted by 2 patients. I mean, brutally. I ended up with a concussion and, black eyes, big lips. And then I also at another psych ward was attacked by 5 male, what do they call them? I don't know. I forget what they call them, but, and I wanted to sue. I got in touch with University Legal Services, and they did an investigation on one of the psych units. And they also introduced me to a nonprofit peer-run organization that dealt with grievances. And I went to them. I did an intake. I copied them on whatever emails I was sending to people that I had grievances with. I got invited to a focus group, and I just started falling in love. And then, and this is volunteer, they let me facilitate at a few different court agencies here in DC, and I loved it. I loved it. Just being able to share my experiences and listening to other people's experiences and being able to give them tools to be able to manage certain emotions. And then COVID hit. And so now I'm kind of feeling a little bored, but it's still my passion to help others realize that you're not alone, you can recover, life can be good, and we're allowed to be happy. So yeah, that's where I am. And, still I'm dealing with life circumstances. My daughter-in-law lost 2 brothers this month, and one to a fentanyl overdose. It's just life. It's like I'll never escape it, but I gotta learn how to deal with it. I'm blessed to wake up every morning, and I believe that I am equipped, with the tools necessary to, 1, stay in the moment, and 2, continue to move forward. I mean, life is going to happen regardless. So I feel like the more that I accept that fact, the stronger I get, and the more able I am to share hope with others. There's always hope, So
Now,
yeah.
do you have a strong spiritual life? Can you tell us about that?
Well, okay, so I'm Catholic. I raised my kids in the church. They were very active. My son was an altar server. Something happened. I think my social anxiety uh, got really high, and I stopped going to church because, you know, I guess I didn't feel good about myself. And so I felt like when I went to church, I was being judged, even though no one verbally judged me. I just kind of felt that way. So I backed out. But my son has gone to church the last 3 Sundays, and I think I'll go back. However, that's religious, but spiritually, I think I'm growing because I trust my God no matter what. I believe that I'm his child. He loves me. And I believe that he wants me to share the love he gives me and the blessings that he gives me with others. So it's way more than, like lighting a candle and, taking communion, and, it's way more than that to me. Um, you know, Not everybody believes the same uh, thing religiously, but that doesn't mean that, they're not a good person. Um,
Are you
so,
familiar with the word synchronicity?
yes, I am familiar with the word synchronicity, but I cannot define it or explain the definition.
All right, let me look it up real quick
Okay.
because synchronicity. All right. It is the simultaneous occurrence of events which appear significantly related, so related events, but they have no discernible causal connection. What's an example of a synchronicity? You were just talking to your husband about like a mental health situation, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, let's say Barbara Walters is on TV with a mental health interview or something like that.
Right, right,
But
right.
there's all kinds of synchronicities. Do
Mhm.
you experience any of those things?
I'm going to say yes, but I'm not going to be able to give you a specific event right now because, again, I feel like there's so much going on in my life with work and volunteering and sitting on, I'm on a board, I'm on 2 committees. Um, but I do see, synchronicity overall in my life because, like I said, there's so much going on at one time. And I will use my spirituality as synchronicity um, because I believe that, people gather in the church um, to try to be better people. And I believe that, if I go to church and I'm authentic with my spirituality, then that can be shared with other people. We don't have to be robots in the church. We can, be ourselves spiritually.
Let me
Just,
ask you, like more along the lines of synchronicity, have you ever had like a dream, whether it be a sleeping dream or a daydream, that there was a synchronicity where something in the material world reflected upon that experience?
wow. Yes. Recently. So when we came back to this house, the door is different. And one night I had a nightmare that my dog and I were in the living room, and some man, uh, big, tall man, dressed in all black with a black, covering over his face. All I could see was his lips and his eyes. And of course, I was afraid. And then he came at me like he was going to kill me. And so I yelled out, and my husband even heard it. But in my dream, I yelled out, "Daddy!" And my dad's been deceased since 1981. But then the next day, funny, my son and my husband were talking about baldness. And my son said, "Well, one day I'm just going to go ahead and let the sides grow out." And I told him, I said, "That's how my dad grew his hair." And right then and there, I was like, wow, it is so ironic, that we're talking about baldness. And I just dreamt about my dad. And I even shared it with my son and my mom. I'm like, wow, I just, had a dream about my dad where he was going to be my protector. And then the next day they're talking about baldness. So I think that was some synchronicity.
Yeah, that was some synchronicity.
Yeah.
And maybe these synchronicities are a way for, I mean, you can say the universe or God sending us some kind of message that maybe
Yes.
we should pay attention to something.
Yes. Yes. I agree. I agree. And that's how I feel. I felt, I mean, it gave after that, I think I started to have like more energy, you know, uh, physical and spiritual energy. Yeah, because like I said, 20 days away from home took a lot out of me. But I think that, you know, gave me more energy, you
Well,
know.
listen, we're coming to the close of this interview. It's a very brief interview, just to get you
Mm.
to know you a little bit. Now, I ask for this final segment that you search your heart, and maybe if you can find your soul, you could search that too. And then come to your mind to form some words to impart upon the listeners something you hadn't said yet, but it's a message that you want people to know.
Um, wow. I want people to know that no matter what you're going through, there are others out there who can support you. You always have your higher power. And I want to say this. I am a member of the Friendship Squad, and I met a friend, and she lives far, far, far from me. But we click and we support one another and we care about one another. And I really think that's what it's all about, is caring and being there, not just for someone else, but for yourself. And for me to find someone that I could tell anything to, and she understand, and she can, you know, uh, relate to, and then I can do the same for her. And it's just like wonderful to have someone that you can share with. And I truly feel blessed. I truly feel blessed. So I want to encourage, people to uh, get involved in the mental health movement for yourself and for others.